Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to 2A News Now. And I thank each and every one of you for taking time to watch my video. I don't know why, but it still amazes me how these Democrat-run states that have Democrat-run cities that have runaway violent crime, and let's say there's a shooting and somebody uses an AR-15, the Democrats and the left-leaning news media, they don't blame the person who did the shooting. They blame the firearm and the firearm manufacturer. But if somebody mows down a group of people with their vehicle, they don't blame the vehicle or the car manufacturer, they blame the person. And now, since a lot of these Democrat-run cities that are in Democrat-run states are having trouble with gun violence, and it's nothing new in most of these cities, especially Chicago, and with all the mayors in these cities and all the police chiefs that have been in these cities, they still have all these shootings. So instead of putting these criminals in prison for a long time to commit crimes with guns, what are they doing? They're suing manufacturers. And the one that's at the top of the list for all these Democrat-run states is Glock. And just the other day, the attorney generals for the states of New Jersey and Minnesota joined a coalition of another 14 attorney generals from states that are all suing Glock. There's also California, Colorado, and Connecticut, Delaware, the District of Columbia, and Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Vermont. And the only reason they're suing Glock is for money. If they can get a judge to agree with them, it will cost Glock tens of millions of dollars. And even if a judge sides with Glock, it'll cost them millions of dollars in attorney fees. And the reason they're suing Glock is because they say Glock has refused to modify the design of their pistols to stop criminals from using illegal switches that turns Glock semi-automatic pistols into machine guns. The Attorney General for New Jersey, Matthew Platkin, said the reason that these states are suing Glock is to reduce gun violence through the coordinated enforcement of the states' respective civil liability and consumer protection laws. But like I said earlier, that they formed this coalition to sue Glock is about the almighty dollar and trying to put Glock out of business. And they want to put the blame for the crimes people commit with firearms on the gun industry and not the people that actually pull the trigger. I don't know if you guys remember earlier this year in March, the city of Chicago teamed up with Everytown to sue Glock as well. And it's amazing how they filed the lawsuit not too long after the city of Chicago met with staffers from the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, as well as some Glock executives. And that's when they asked Glock to change the design of their pistols so they would not accept these so-called Glock switches. And they basically told them to go pound sand and they weren't going to change their design. And how soon after Glock told them to go pound sand did the city of Chicago and Everytown filed their lawsuit? The same freaking day. And what I'm going to tell you now shows you that the White House was working with the city of Chicago and Everytown to sue Glock right after the lawsuit was filed that day. The president of Everytown sent out a tweet saying federal officials recently contacted Glock to discuss implementing new ways to modify Glock pistols to make it harder for Glock switches to be installed. Rather than help, Glock falsely insisted there was nothing they could do. And not too long after that tweet was sent out, the House Oversight Committee started an investigation about possible collusion between the White House and Everytown. And not too long after Chicago filed their lawsuit, a group of 13 attorney generals sent a letter to Glock demanding the company to preserve all records dating back to 1987 that encompass the conversion of Glock semi-automatic handguns into automatic weapons through the use of switches or similar modifications, including but not limited to documents related to the prevalence, use in crime or violence, or public safety impact of such converted Glock semi-automatic handguns, the design of development of Glock pistols with respect to their semi-automatic function, including but not limited to documents relating to their receptiveness to being made to function automatically, whether you took or considered action to reduce the receptiveness or the possibility of design changes or alternatives, your knowledge about all state and federal laws relating to Glock switches and converted Glock machine guns, your legal responsibility as a manufacturer of guns that can be converted using Glock switches, and whether or not you complied with such laws and upheld such responsibility financial information relating to Glock pistols, including profit, manufacturing costs, and distribution costs, as well as the cost for developing and or implementing any alternative design choices that were available or considered, and any public-facing marketing or advertising related to Glock, or advertising relating to Glock pistols, including any representations about their supposed safety, lethality, modularity, semi-automatic function, or the speed at which they fire. I don't know about you guys, but if I was Glock, I would tell them to go eat a big bag of fat ones. And I guess these attorney generals that are suing Glock have never heard of the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act that stops frivolous lawsuits like this against gun companies. And just a reminder, some victims of a shooting at a synagogue in California, and the Brady Group sued Smith & Wesson. And in the lawsuit, unbelievably, they said the semi-automatic rifle that was used by the shooter should be treated like a full auto machine gun because it could be illegally modified to shoot full auto. Have they lost their freaking mind? But thank goodness the judge in that case had some freaking common sense and dismissed the lawsuit, citing, guess what? The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And the judge in that case said, the U.S. Supreme Court recently held, in the case of Garland versus Cargill, that semi-automatic firearms that require shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot are not machine guns. It's amazing the attorneys argued the modifications could make the rifle illegal, but there were no indications that the shooter intended to modify the firearm or actually modified the firearm at all. And as you all know, the only pistols available to the public are semi-automatic pistols. And the modification, turning a semi-automatic pistol into an automatic pistol, is already a federal crime. And it makes no sense to hold the manufacturer accountable for somebody that commits that crime. And hopefully sometime soon, we can get these frivolous lawsuits to stop and hold the police accountable for stopping the criminals that use firearms. And also hold accountable the district attorneys that are soft on crime. And also start putting the blame on the people that use the firearms to commit these crimes, and not blame the gun manufacturer and or the gun shop that sold that firearm. As always, I would really like to hear your thoughts about today's video in the comment section. And I appreciate everybody who supports the channel. You guys are constantly liking, sharing, and subscribing, and hitting those post notifications, as well as leaving a lot of comments, and I really do appreciate it. And I invite all of you to come back and watch my next video.